Hi, Chris. Happy to sit down with you and discuss a success story we've had with a recent corporate client. I don't know the details too much. That's why we're here having this discussion, but I know it's a corporate client that has some really unique data. And I was curious about like if you can fill me in on the details and then what was kind of the problem brought to us that we were able to help them with.
Uh, yeah, hi, Fia. Excited to talk about this particular data set and this specific client. This is a data set that's a known issue across the industry and how to deal with this type of data. I think everyone will kind of know about the data once we talk a little bit about it. But we were able to identify a way and get that data in a format that is in XML format, and we could build out a custom application that then scrubs that data and cleans out the noise and gets that data in a format that the client can jump in directly and look at the messages going back and forth instead of seeing a bunch of noise at the beginning of the data set. And so, for example, if you and I are chatting, this is specifically around chat messages, and we may have 20 people in the room, a bunch of noise will happen in the beginning of that before the actual real content of the data. Like Fia leaves the room, Chris leaves the room, Chris enters the room, Fia enters the room. And so we were able to actually clean that up to where when the client logs into Relativity and starts reviewing data, they're seeing the exact chat messages specifically. And so they don't have to scroll through hundreds of people leaving, entering, leaving, entering the room. It's, hey, Chris, how are you doing today? Hey, Fia, what's up? How can I help you? And you're directly looking at now real data that needs to be reviewed. So that's a really big deal. We've spoken with this specific client multiple times about this, and they've been ecstatic about that.
Yeah.
And one of the areas that has been a huge success for them in this specific data type is around DSARs specifically, because that's a very fast turnaround, and a lot of the data that they need to look at is in this message chat. And so with the ability to scrub all of that noise at the beginning of the data and then work through some efficiencies in their workflows, we've made that DSAR review exponentially easier and quicker for them. And a few other pieces of feedback that we've received from them around that is, hey, we only need specific coding fields. We only need specific things that we're looking for. So we were able to build out a template specifically for that DSAR workflow for them. And it gets them looking at data quickly, and it gets them looking at just the right stuff, and it again removes all the noise around their workflow.
By getting rid of that noise, I think that it sounds like we've streamlined the process for them. I think what I also like to I'm hearing is that being able to templatize that and then reuse it, I think is huge, right? Because that's saving, correct me if I'm wrong, it's saving time and money for the client the next time they have to come across this.
Correct. And we've templatized it in multiple levels, right? So at the time we've worked with this client to get data in a specific format that's easy for them to export. In fact, their preferred export format. And then we've built out workflows and processes that allows any of our processing team, we don't need now a senior data engineer to clean up this data. It can go to anyone in our processing center to push the data through this process. So that's the first part. The second part is we've worked with the client to say, what do you need in Relativity to make this easy, right? So we've built out now a template specific for their DSARs with this weird type of data. And again, removed the noise, built out specific coding layouts, built in automated redaction features that allows them to automatically redact PII without the need of trying to go through and find all of that information in this DSAR request. So it's removed a lot of barriers of entry for them to get started, right? How do we reduce that time of looking at data and looking at clean, noise-free data? So that's one thing that we've really worked on and worked with them specifically on how we get there quickly.
That's awesome. So it's not this one time, like they had an issue, we solved it for them, and then they went on their merry way. Like this is an ongoing issue that they had, and they came to us and we figured out a a solution that like a longevity solution, like a solution that keeps on giving. That's what I'm getting. Like this is an issue
Correct.
they've had in the past that was causing a lot of problems for them. We came in again, came up with a customized solution, had our experts in the back end helping with that. And now it's kind of the gift that keeps giving. Like that's okay. That's really cool to hear because
Correct.
sometimes it's the one-off successes and that's great. But the fact that this is a continuous success is like nice to hear. Yeah.
And
So
what I
for
like
me,
about
yeah.
that, yeah, and
Uh-huh.
sorry, what I like about
No,
that
you're
too
good.
is it's been an iteration, right? So
Okay.
the first big step was how do we remove the noise in the data?
Okay.
That was the first big step. And that was like huge win for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, well, where do we go from here? How do we continue to improve and make this process easier for them? That's
Mm-hmm.
when we looked at relativity of saying, what are things that are hard for you when you're looking at the data? We've cleaned it up, right? We've
Yeah.
removed all the noise, but there's still workflows that have to happen within relativity for them to review this data and then produce it in a way that meets their request.
Yeah.
And so we've continued to work with them to say, all right, let's think about automated redactions. Let's think about simplifying your workflows. Let's think about optimizing your views and relativity so you can
Mm-hmm.
log in, click one view, and all of your data is there in a way that
Yeah.
you've got a nice overview and can jump in directly and start looking at documents.
I love that.
So all of
It's
that
a,
stuff has
yeah.
continued to improve. Yeah,
Yeah, a very consultative approach, which is like what we're trying
correct.
to do, all the time
That's what
with
we
every
try to do.
client.
Yeah,
It's who we do.
every
It's
day.
what we do. It's who we are. Okay, awesome. And so again, like we're saying, this client is continuously working with us. Is there anything else to know? Any big, unique tools that we utilized during this, or is this it's just this ongoing process and like you're saying, these different iterations, this continuous growth consultative approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a few things. Number one is we looked at this client that had a problem that didn't fit the standard box, right? It we started there and said, well, we can process your data, but it's not going to be any better than anybody else. So what can we do differently? And because of who we are and how we deal with our customers, we were able to look at that differently and build out that customized workflow at the very beginning to say, how do we clean up your data first? How do we get you better data to look at rather than just say it's the same as everywhere else that you go? Yeah, you can look at it that way, but that was our first step is thinking
Mm-hmm.
just because your data doesn't fit the standard Microsoft email 365 account, right? Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that we don't want to help and help you get to that kind of standardized workflow. So
Yeah.
that's the part I think that was the most exciting for me is that we have the ability and the things that we do every day of saying, well, what's next? How do we help you go from where you're feeling pain today to make an improvement on that? And it goes back to our plus next, right? So
Yeah.
what's next? And that's what we're continuing to talk to this client about is, all right, well, we've done these iterations. Let's push through a few more projects, and then we're going to come back and say, well, what's next? How do we
Yeah.
make that process even easier and even better?
Love it. Perfect. I mean, that sounds fabulous. And I can't wait to keep checking in and see how this client has continued to grow and work with us at Plus Next. So thank you, Chris, for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Via.